Have you ever had an alcoholic beverage and maybe even one too many? I'm sure everyone could say so at some point in time in their lives. In my speech, I will be introducing some main points of alcoholism, such as the signs and symptoms of an alcoholic, the reason on why alcohol can be so addictive, and what type of help you can seek once the situation has gotten out of control. Of course, we all want to enjoy some type of alcoholic beverage at times, whether it be beer, wine, martinis, or whiskey. But do we consider the risk factors behind these so-called fun times? And do we even take alcoholism that serious? In the United States, this has been an increasingly serious problem. Almost everyone has seen their lives impacted in some way because of alcohol addiction. Whether it be an alcoholic in the family, an incident involving a drunk driver on the roads, or even one's own alcohol addiction problem. Just like myself, I did not understand why or how alcoholics became actual alcoholics until years passed and I then became a witness of a loved one suffering from alcoholism. And from this terrifying experience, I get to explain to you the signs and symptoms of an alcoholic. Number 1, the obvious loss of control with your alcohol intake. Number 2, if you are a family-oriented person, there might be some concerns if you tend to be alone more often than usual. For instance, you are at an event full of people just having a good old time, socializing, and all you can think about is wanting to leave or go home to be alone. This is also a sign of depression. Number 3, you begin to have mood swings if you have not had your beverage, the alcoholic beverage you needed for that day. Number 4, you may start having withdrawals and your sleeping pattern may begin to change. Now that I have told you some signs and symptoms of an alcoholic, I will now talk to you about how alcohol can be so addictive. Alcohol is a socially accepted drink, but too often people take it way too far. Many people ask the questions, why do people fall into alcohol's deep hole? And why is it so hard to get out of? Well, one of the many reasons people fall into alcohol's deep hole could be related to the past events that has happened in one's life, such as a death, a divorce, or even if I've mentioned before, depression. Alcohol is very powerful. It gives power to the chemicals dopamine, which produces satisfaction, and endorphins, which kill pain. People then see alcohol as a drug they can depend on to get through their day. Although I cannot seem to understand why or how alcoholics could even begin to put their lives in this predicament, in this direction, most of the time it is the hardest thing and people cannot help it. Statistics show alcohol is one of the easiest things to get addicted to. And now that I have talked to you and explained to you a couple of the ways on how and why alcohol could be so addictive, I will now state my last point and provide the different ways you can seek the help that you need. One way to try to overcome alcoholism could be to see a counselor. Admitting that you are an alcoholic is the first and sometimes the hardest step of this process, and speaking with a counselor can maybe make it a little bit more helpful for you. A second way of help would be a rehab center. Alcohol rehab is the most effective way out of the two in breaking the cycle of alcohol dependency. These programs are not just a band-aid solution. Rehab gets to the heart of why people become addicted and does the best possible to treat these issues. Only 10% of these men and women actually go out their way to receive treatment at a rehab facility. Although more times than others, these helpful guides I've talked to you about could be a positive thing for most, the other half of alcoholics take it as a negative guide. For example, an individual suffering from severe alcoholism could go through detox, and right after that the individual craves alcohol even more than before because they have gone without it for so long. When it comes to seeking help, it is just a change you have to take on your own. Only 10% of these men and women go out their way, like I said, to go to rehab facilities to get help. During my speech, I gave you the information on the signs and symptoms of an alcoholic, how you could become so easily addicted to alcohol, and the types of help you could seek. we all sometimes just want to have a good time and kick back and relax with a nice cold drink, we need to stop and realize and think beforehand what could end up happening down the road ahead of us. And remember, not all of us could be that lucky and that blessed in recovering this horrible disease of alcoholism.